Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to DocLands. This is a very special show. This is our centerpiece program, so we are really excited to be sharing this film with you. My name is Mark Fishkin. I am the founder and executive director of the California Film Institute, and this is my colleague, Joni Cooper.
Joni Cooper, director of programming for DocLands. And it's Saturday night, so we're in for some music.
I just want to take a brief moment and go off topic of the film for a second. A couple of days ago, I thanked everybody for coming to the audience because you are so important to reviving the theatrical movie-going experience. Films like this, it will be great to see it on streaming and HBO, but this is the place to see it first. And we believe in that, and we know you believe in it too. In order to do that and to build facilities like this, the Rafael Theater, I recall last year one of our HVAC units went out. So 6 in the morning, if you were up, you might have noticed 4th Street was closed and there was a huge crane putting that new HVAC unit on there. Well, guess what? There's 3 more. And so it takes a lot to run an organization like this. So I do want to thank everyone here who is a member. And if you are a member, if you could renew, we would be so grateful. If you're not a member, we would love to see you as a member and continue support for this organization that we think gives tremendous value to the community and the whole Bay Area. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. We'd also like to thank our evening sponsor, which is AC Hotel Marriott in San Rafael. I'd also like to say a thank you to our community partners who helped us get the word out for tonight's screening, and that's the Sweetwater Music Hall and the Mill Valley Music Festival. So thank you to them for getting the word out. I would then just like to introduce the film. You all know what you're here for. And I just have to say that for me, it was an absolute trip down memory lane. It brought back so many memories. Just getting that soundtrack of those years into my life was such a great thing for me. So America's always been one of my favorite bands. So stick around for the Q&A afterwards. The directors are here, David BRESCHEL and DUSTIN ELM, as well as producer Jack PIATT, and BURNELL and GERRY BECKLEY of America are going to be here via Zoom. So we're really pleased that they were able to squeeze us into their now more relaxed, perhaps, or maybe not. We'll find out what they're living their dream. And don't forget to vote afterwards. We'll have the Q&A. There will be a Q&A code up here afterwards. But you can also use your ticket link to vote, as well as there are laptops in the lobby area. So vote for your favorites. I mean, vote for all the films. You can do that. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much and enjoy.
Yeah. What a journey that was. It's so fun to go back and really see what all was going on. I would like to bring up the 3 guys who we mentioned earlier. We've got the directors, DUSTIN ELM, come on up, and David BRESCHEL, and producer is JACK PIATT. And we'll just give it a minute before the Zoom comes up. But I know it's on my mind. It's like, how did you guys all come together to do this? And partly why? Because you are a bit younger than... And I'm curious, what drew you to this film and how did it come about?
So we all came together. We've been working together for years. So that's how we came together. David and I have a company together called Highway West. And Dustin and David went to USC together in grad school, so they've known each other for a long time. So that's how this band got together. But how this movie came together was from our executive producer, Frank Polifroni. Frank, stand up, please. Come on. If it wasn't for that guy right there, this movie wouldn't have happened. So there's every movie starts somewhere, and it started with that man right there. So without him, we wouldn't be here. So we really appreciate him and Jeff Larson with the band, the archivist. Those two guys kind of got the ball rolling, and then we just took it from there. So, yeah.
And you know, you get the opportunity to make this movie, you take it. It's an incredible story, 53 years straight, over 100 shows a year. When we started it, yeah.
The boys. Hey, guys.
I thought they were
Hi,
clapping for me.
David thought that was for him. It's like,
What's going on?
Welcome you two retired gentlemen.
Well, I'm the one
Or
who's sitting in the southern hemisphere, but anyway, it's good to see you all. Good to see everybody. Thank you all for coming.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. And I think one thing is on our minds is how is life out there on the road in a different way, maybe?
Well, are you talking to Do? Do is actually on what we call the road. So Do, how's it looking from that Hampton Inn or wherever you are?
Well, it's great. Yeah, I'm out here touring as we speak. It's what 10 shows in. Jerry is the retired. I'm jealous. Jerry is the retired guy, but I chose to come back out. It's kind of a long, convoluted story, but we did kind of go on a long hiatus, and 6 months in, I was ready to come back out. And Jerry said, "Well, I'm done, Do." So it's great. We've got an arrangement, and everything's fun. And Jerry checks in virtually daily, but it's going quite well. I'm happy. It wasn't something I ever expected to do, to be the front guy in the spotlight, because Jerry and I we've been together since we were 15 years old and went through high school and did this whole thing together. So I miss him, of course, and the rapport that we have on stage, but I'm enjoying it, I have to say at this point, but I don't know how long I'll keep it up. We have a great band, same band Jerry and I worked with in the last 20 plus years. So, but it's a long history.
Right.
This is actually the 55th year, technically. That's a long time to be doing what we do, but our music, it's all about the music. That's what lasts forever. You know, we're really proud of it and happy to see you all there. I recognize that building. I lived in Marin.
Yay.
Yeah. I was up there like 26 years. That was a big part of my life and the career back then.
Yeah. Well, I just like to ask, do you really miss each other?
Desperately.
I can say that we do speak. In fact, David and Dustin mentioned that they were quite surprised, or Jack, the producer, that quite surprised that Dewey and I do speak like daily. And he said that they're partners and they barely speak weekly, you know, and so.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure what that's really a reflection of, but in full disclosure, if you can imagine, not that every one of the team has been with us for a half a century, but a lot of these guys were closer to 30 years than 20 years. And so it's truly family. And that is the part that I miss. I certainly don't miss the 6 a.m. flights and the 3-hour delays in O'Hare and all the stuff I'm sure everybody is not too crazy about. But as far as the family and the guys, the reason that it worked so well for so long is that they are a lovely batch of people. And so I call to harass Trav, for example, our stage manager, just because I miss harassing him, you know, and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I miss all of that. But I have a lovely, healthy family. I'm very fortunate. I'm splitting my time now between the Southern Hemisphere. I'm speaking to you from Sydney, Australia, where it is tomorrow already. And then I'm back to LA to see my boys in the next couple of weeks. So I'll be back a little bit closer to you guys. So still doing a bit of traveling.
That's great. Well, I can imagine, I mean, being closer than brothers, really, and spending time. So I totally get it. Yeah, yeah. But it's great to hear that you're both growing and doing what you love to do. Wonderful. Yeah.
David and I talk at least 6 days a week. We take Sundays off typically, unless we're traveling.
Yeah. And we were just talking before you came on about how the whole band got together here to do the film, and met Frank Polifone out in the audience there. And that too is a great story, because these guys are a bit younger and not like the rest of us who have your songs built into the soundtrack of our lives.
You guys have been touring longer than we've been alive, but we added a youthful, pizzazz to the movie.
Yeah, a little bit of snap, some much needed snap and crackle.
Yeah, to answer your earlier question,
Yeah.
essentially, everyone knows the music, and as we run around and we spoke to a lot of people, you find that most people know the name of the band that made the music, but not many people know the guys. And there was a day where these songs didn't exist, and then another day where they did, and now everybody knows all of these songs. And so we were really interested in being able to tell that story. It's an incredible story, and in addition to loving the music, it's just what they've done is incredible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm wondering if there are any questions out in the audience. Yes, there are.
And we will neither run the mic or they can't hear.
Right. And I could repeat. Yeah, Dan's going to get his exercise tonight running.
Yeah, sometimes when I hear an America tune come up, it'll say George Martin and America. And I don't see that with any other band. Why is it just, an aberration or?
There's nothing technically that actually dictates that. I can tell you, and Dewey has seen this too, very often they'll list not only the artist, but they might list who had produced the song. And in our case, George did 7 consecutive albums from the 4th album, but there's nothing in the deal that said we wanted him or should include him. We did notice for example, on History, the Greatest Hits, maybe half of those songs, or not quite half, were produced by Dewey and I, but they often come up shown as produced by George Martin because he did oversee the assembly of the Greatest Hits album. So that's a bit of a misnomer. But
Yeah.
I can tell you anything that includes the name George Martin, I'm not going to argue with. We loved the man. We were so happy and honored to work with him.
Yeah, it's really sometimes those things are out of our hands. They just get depicted. And like Jerry said, George Martin he's huge in our lifetime, and all the Beatles work. Those of you, if there's any young people there that didn't know who George Martin was, he produced all the Beatles records, and it was a wonderful, amazing chance that we got to meet him and discuss him producing maybe one record in 1974, and it went on for 7 years. And so, but his legacy with the Beatles is so huge that I think they just like to glue his name onto anything we do. George Martin in America.
It's kind of like a film where it's like, from the producers of.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and 74, you guys, were you even 20 then? Were you 20 then?
I would have been 22. I was born in 52, so.
74, I was 21. I turned 22 later in that year, but before we started that album.
That's amazing. I think we've got another question over here.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
When you were recording at the Caribou Ranch around in Netherlands in the 70s and 80s, I had a place on Sugarloaf. Richie Furay was one of the neighbors, and there were rumors that you guys were renting a place on Sugarloaf while you were recording at Caribou. And I just want to know, were you actually there in that same meadow with Richie Furay and me, 70s or 80s, outside of Netherlands?
We weren't. I think, Dewey, you confirmed, I think all of us principals were actually in cabins and housing that was right around the actual studio on the ranch. But there were quite a few extras. Jeff Emmerich, the engineer, was with us. George Martin. Was it Tom? Who was assistant?
Tom Anderson.
Tom Anderson was assistant. One of them might well have been over on Sugar.
I
We know
remember-
Richie. We know Richie, but I'm sure I would have remembered if we were sharing a meadow with him.
I remember the building we were in was called Ouray, O-U-R-A-Y, because there were several buildings, and then they had converted the giant barn into a beautiful studio, and there was a mess hall. It was quite a compound. Lots of bands went up there to record, Elton and Chicago, weren't they up there?
They owned it. I think they
owned it. That's what
Jim
it was.
Guercio.
Jim
Yeah.
Guercio, yeah. It was a great time. We tended to try and find different places to record. All our albums were different places. George Martin even took a mobile unit out to Hawaii, and we recorded an album on the island of Kauai. That was a little extreme, but we worked in San Francisco, in Sausalito up there at the record plant, and down in LA at the record plant. Yeah.
What role, if any, did school play in your growing into this musical career? Did school help you or hinder you, or just sort of ignored it?
Very little.
Well, we met each other in school. That's the key, frankly, yeah. And that story is we met in England. There's always been that confusion about this band called America, who came over from England. The case being that our fathers were Air Force and we were dependents, and we were stationed over there, but there was an American high school, and that's where we met. And then we could, our musical interests attracted us to each other, and it morphed into that. We graduated, like Jerry said earlier, in 1969, and virtually came right out of school. And I think Dan did do one semester of college back in the States, but Jerry and I just kind of worked at the base and were writing songs. And Dan came back after one semester, and we got back together, and he'd been writing songs, and suddenly we said, hey, we've got a bunch of songs here. In fact, I think that's in the documentary. I'm probably reading my own script, but that's true. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I had the real pleasure of seeing you folks perform for the first time when I was about 8 to 10 years old. And now I'm retired or semi-retired, and I teach music business. So for my students, I'd like to know, on tour, how do you get over the hump when you see that itinerary and you still have about 70 days in? How do you make that normal? And then after the tour, when you get back home, how do you reacclimate, get back into it?
That's a very good question. It is a challenge, and we do only the thing I'm doing right now without Jer and with the band and everybody. It's the same exact structure, but we only do weekenders, so it's going out for a little bit. But yeah, we were in the trenches for decades there, where we would go out for 2 months. I think as long as 3 months once. But yeah, it's kind of like you really prepare yourself. You beat yourself up the first few times, then you realize you got to pace yourself and plan on packing enough underwear and having your supplies ready, because you are definitely doing one-nighters. We did a couple of residencies over the years, but not, traditionally it was all one-nighters. So lots of flights and buses and vans and overnight things and canceled flights. It's the travel part of it does wear you down, because it is so physical, and time zones. And then of course, when we fly to Europe or Asia or South America or places where we've played, we've been fortunate to have audiences all over the world too. And we know lots of other musicians and bands that we've met and worked with over the years. And some are always kind of amazed that our music has carried that far, because it's a regional thing in some cases, but our music, I guess, is palatable in all these.
I would add, that for the majority of our half a century, we had the blessing of success. Right from the very start, our first single and album went to #1 basically around the world. So, and I don't mean to diminish the real trials that it is to get up and do the show, and night after night that you're referring to, and how do you get through and how do you decompress and stuff. But I would like to add that we had the benefit of virtually every night being a sold-out act with thousands of people, which has got to help. I can only imagine how much tougher it would have been if every night, there's a half hour or something, So we were very, very fortunate, which I think helped smooth the way a little bit on the journey. There was never a case of, oh God, why are we doing this? It was always
Yeah.
very well received.
We were fortunate that way. We did work in England and Holland in the very, very beginning on a scaled down little band thing with 3 stools and some acoustic guitars and pulled ourselves around. But by the time we'd made the first album and it was getting instant airplay in England and we were on their TV shows and everything, it was an incredible beginning. But like Jerry says, that really gave us the boost to be able to ratchet the whole thing up. And we had to get a rhythm section, a bass player and a drummer and stuff. We couldn't just do this coffee shop act on stools. And all of that was part of the building blocks. And it carried us well all these decades.
Excellent. Oh, we have a question here first. We need the mic.
So you guys are obviously not on the road together and you're on different continents, but are you still working on new music? Do you find time to work together?
This is as far apart as we can get.
I could say that Jerry never stops writing and recording. I think I'm fair to say. I have certainly drifted from writing. There you are, right there.
I'm in the studio as we speak.
Jerry's always had a home studio, and I always was kind of just motivated when we had a project that was on the calendar and we got to record this year because or this month, whenever it was, scheduling, because we had record deals and we were signed to a 7-album deal or an 8-album deal or whatever it was, and you had to deliver. And so that motivation got me off my butt because I'm always distracted by other things in life, even back then. But we seemed to have a good focus and knew that we each, the original trio at least, and then as Jerry and I as a duo, we knew we had to come up with songs. We've got a deal here. And then it becomes creative and fun. And Jerry's home studio in latter years was always great because I could come there, and he's an engineer, producer, of extremely well versed. So I just had to do my parts, strum my guitar and sing. And Jerry was always pretty much the musical director in that sense. That was a relief.
I'm working on a Dewey Bunnell solo album at the moment. Just Dew doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah, that's always been that. I've always been a band guy. I've never had aspirations for a solo album. I just like to be part of a band.
No, don't worry. I'll convince him. It's just taking a while.
So it's AI again, I guess, huh?
We've got the title, and we just need about 12 smashes, and we'll be ready to go.
That's it. Here we go.
I'm curious, for each of you, what's your favorite America song?
Well, I always go for, and I'll explain why. I usually pick Ventura Highway. Obviously, the 2 number 1s we had were Horse with No Name and Sister Golden Hair, lovely songs, and we're very proud. But there's something about Ventura Highway that it's not a secret. It's, I would say, our 2nd or 3rd most familiar tune. But I think it really sums up the whole band thing. You can clearly hear Dan and me and the whole acoustic guitars and everything. I think that's the signature America tune.
I think I always do that too when people ask me. And it's funny that we both picked that one. It just seemed like it was the 2nd album. So we were kind of established. We got our land legs going for us, and making that album, we knew that much more about what we were doing. And we were out in California at that point. So it kind of sums up, we kind of joined that whole singer-songwriter crowd out in California and sums things up. But there's lots of songs that I think every artist will tell you that has a catalog. There's lots of songs that I always thought would have gotten more attention than they did. It's just, you cannot predict what song is going to be, trigger anything with the public or get their interest. And hey, look over at this song. This is a really good one I wrote. Share. You can't. It's a matter of the public's taste. But those are great. There's great songs, and they've got legs, and it's nice to hear them in the supermarket and the elevators.
The first time, I just want to tell a quick story.
Yeah.
The first time David, Jack, and I met Dewey was in Oregon in person, and we were at a restaurant, and we were in Dewey's hometown in Oregon at the time. And we were having dinner with him, and Horse with No Name came on. And it was this, you know, you always think about that when you're not a rock star. Like, what's it like hearing your music? And he didn't even notice it until we brought it up.
It's always in there somewhere. Oh, that's just my head doing that. But no, it's flattering. Obviously, it's amazing. I'll get people saying, "Hey, I'm in the store, or I'm somewhere, and I'm hearing your song," or "I just turned on the radio and there it is." That's a fantastic thing to know that it's, you know, cross generations too. We have young people at our shows, and we've always had a pretty good broad spectrum of audience, even from the beginning when we were 20, 21 and first starting. We attracted, you know, older people then and younger people that the music has.
There's an ad campaign here in Australia that has bought a lot of time on television because it seems like the ads every few minutes. But it's something like H&M Furniture, and it's "You can do magic." And all of a sudden, I'm just watching TV, and there I am. You know, it's like, okay. A big revenue stream on that one too, by the way, too.
Is it, Jerry? Oh, I don't get any of that. What?
I'm not sure that it's getting out of the country, that particular.
It doesn't leave Australia.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you both very much for joining us and taking time out of your life to spend a few minutes with us. So thank you very much. The story was very awesome and really, I think, will transcend a lot of generations to come. But my question is, for each of you, is this one question. If you could give the next generation or budding artist one piece of advice in this industry, what would it be?
Well, we've always said, try and write your own music, or, you know, obviously you learn from other songs, cover songs and things in the beginning, but I think for us, the key was that original music. Now that may be harder, easier said than done, but, you know, I think each individual has their own voice, literally their own voice, and everybody has this artistic thing if they're trying to make music. And I think that's where a virtuoso guitar player is great, you know, play your instrument as the best you can, but creating something brand new, I think at the end of the day was the key with us, you know.
I used to lecture at Loyola, and I said something to every class very similar to what Dewey just said, which is that it is the one unique thing you bring to the table is yourself. And Dewey and I know not countless, but quite a few incredibly talented people in LA in the music scene who are incredible at emulating this or sounding like Michael McDonald or whatever it was, but they missed this one important thing of who they were. And so the reason that I say that's so important is that obviously in this business, not everything is going to happen. Not everything's a home run, blah, blah, blah. But stand or fall, if what you're standing on is truly yourself and something of yourself, then if it didn't work, at least you know it's you that you were presenting, as opposed to, oh, why did I listen to that guy at the label? Why did I cut that stupid, you know? You don't want to be blaming it on somebody else's decisions made on your behalf. And so that's what you can bring. Some of the simplest, you know, no surprise, Horse is just a 2-chord song, but it's one of the hits of the century. It doesn't take, you know, as Dewey was saying, chops of, you know, you don't need to be Rachmaninoff on the piano to write a hip hop song.
Hey, I just wanted to say great film. For the filmmakers, throughout the process of making it, did you have any favorite moments or interview bites?
My favorite moment in the movie is it's a balcony scene towards the end where they're reflecting on 5 more shows, 4 more shows, 3 more shows. And I just think that scene is like, it's funny, their giant faces are right behind me, but it was like, it felt like one of the more, they're very honest people, both of them. But that really felt like an honest moment of reflection on what was about to happen. That to me was one of the more important, better, genuine moments in the movie for me. I love the balcony scene.
I remember it very well. And our joke is that we started off as teenagers, you know, signed to Warner Brothers right at the very start. And 55 years later, we're like the 2 guys in the Muppet balcony, you know. Hey, play something you know. Yeah, it's quite an honor.
For me, you know, when you're making a doc, you're hoping for happy accidents that you didn't plan that just end up in your favor and making a beautiful scene that you didn't expect. And we didn't know that Dewey had found this big box of all of these programs and their schedules from basically their entire lives. And then he pulled it out on the bus and opened it and went through it. And it was just like a wonderful thing for everybody to be experiencing at the same time.
It was legit. We were on the bus, Dewey, you'll remember this. And it was like, we had been shooting for hours. I mean, it was like a 10-hour bus ride or something. And after a while, it's like, all right, what do we do? What can we film? Like, how do we, you know, we're burning. We got to keep, let's film. And then it was like, what are these boxes? And Dewey's like, oh, those are all of our old programs from the last 40 years. Everything we've ever done in our entire lives are in those boxes. And it was like, so I was like, let's get the boxes out, you know? And then that all just happened, you know?
Just so everybody doesn't think I carry a big box of itineraries around.
Yeah, he doesn't travel with them all the time. It was
In fact, I did collect all mine too. I have boxes of that stuff. For some reason, I throw those in a box and label it at the end of the year, you know, 1995 or 2001. But in that case, that particular box, David, Dustin, was given to us. Our ex-drummer sadly passed away, and his neighbor or one of the relatives had said, did I want that box? And I picked it up. I think, isn't that the scenario, Jerry? I got it from someone outside Sacramento or wherever we were. So I was bringing that home myself. So that was just purely, you know, serendipity that box was in my bunk and we brought it in there. But because we were looking at those itineraries kind of for the first time ourselves, because that was Willie's stash. Willie Leacox was our drummer. And he had kept that stuff. He kept it all for tax purposes, practical reasons. He said, if I have to go back and tell him I was working on this date and I made this much money, I've got the itineraries.
Hilarious. For me, wow, there's so many moments. Anytime you make a film, it's hard to pick. But I think our other kind of surprise that really showed up, I'm sure it showed up for you, is Henry Diltz. He's the fifth Beatle, you know, and that moment when he is literally almost in tears singing along at the last show, it just strikes me every time I watch it. And he's such an amazing guy as well. These guys are, I mean, it's just been a wonderful experience with these guys and the band and Henry. So that really strikes me every time, you know.
I agree.
I agree.
I choked up when I saw him there too, because Henry was a big hero of ours too. He's been part of so much of our life, and before we even met him, with all the work he'd done with artist packages and photographs, and he was in a group, the Modern Folk Quartet himself, way back, and so his history, he's just a wealth of stories and things. He's fun, great guy.
I love the moment where he says, oh, that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. What are they doing in there?
What are they doing in there? Yeah.
That basically sums up Henry. It's kind of together, but there's always an element.
Actually, that's the guy you need to make a documentary with, Dave.
That's actually in process. So that's been that's coming. We're talking to those filmmakers. It seems like they're pretty down the road on that. So
I agree. That's an incredible story, that one.
Yeah.
Well, make sure they interview us for Henry's doc.
They should, and okay.
This question is actually for Dewey. Why did you leave Marin County?
Oh boy. Well, things happen in life. My kids were born there, Marin General, and went to school out at St. Mark's, and then Marin Catholic, and I had a great life there, and with my first wife, and things change, and that all changed. I do love Marin. It's important. I knew lots of the musicians up there. Many are still friends. Sadly, Phil Lesh recently passed away with the dead, and I spent time with Steve Perry and still see Steve. And there were, Huey Lewis was a pal of ours. We see him now and then. Jerry and I up in Montana. So I had a great life there, and traveling out from SFO airport back and forth. I'd make the drive across the bridge still got to get on the road. So I have great fond memories from my times in Marin, and I think about it a lot, actually.
Okay, last audience question.
Thank you. You guys lived such a charmed life with all the people and times that you experienced. I asked the Beatle question, but also just all the amazing photos and stories that you had of the times you grew up with amazing musicians and so forth. It was really fun to see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. What I wanted to ask you guys after finding from the filmmakers what their standout moments were, I wanted to ask you guys if you made some self-discoveries or basically what you got out of the film. Was there something special that you walked away with from this whole process?
I would like to say that I think, at least for me, and I'm pretty sure for Dewey, the real gift is that we fell into the most capable hands possible. Dewey and I have memories of all 55 years in our high school together. We have all the memories, but to say, sum it all up in 90 minutes and put it together and make a story out of it, very hard to do. It's just a collection of memories. And for us to have ended up with this team of guys that did such a beautiful job, I'm so proud of it. I'm proud. It makes me proud when I see the story because I think they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a great testament, and it's this thing that's there for forever. The music is there forever, and then that this is the one thing I noticed in the film is there's such a long career. It's really hard to compact it all in. We hit on all the main points, but there are some gaps. There's gaps in my memory. You know, what the heck happened between 85 and 92, and the hit years and the 70s years are all pretty crystal clear. But then we became kind of all those years of touring, Jerry, you know, on the strength of the records, because we made records over and over. There's lots of other albums that just did not hit the public.
Yeah.
The first years did. And we worked those records too. But so those are fuzzy years, kind of. I guess anybody in any line of work, you can't.
Some of it's a blur.
Some of it's a blur.
80s was a bit of a blur. There's also one other thing that comes to mind on occasion is there's little, they're not secrets in the movie, but they're little moments that might mean something to Dewey and I. I know, guys, when we were in the back room of the bus and we're going through that box of itineraries, you can just hear the very end of a conversation. I'm on the cell phone and you can hear me say, I love you, Jimmy, you know, and hang up. And we then just briefly mentioned that Burt Bacharach had passed away. But that little second is a reminder to me. We were on the phone with one of our dear friends, the legendary composer Jimmy Webb, who is, we toured together, and he's a dear friend and stuff. And I was speaking to Jimmy because we were both friends and fans of Burt Bacharach, who had just passed away. So I look and I see these little just snippets and I go, oh yeah, that was that moment. Might not, I mean, it just flies by. If you didn't make a point of pointing it out, you wouldn't really know what that was about.
Yeah, it's there for eternity now, right? That moment when we found out.
Thank you so much. I also wanted to just say to you guys up there behind us that you look very close to each other to us, almost like you're holding hands. So you're together. Thank you.
We are. We're joined at the hip. We have really been through this whole.
That is true. The amount of times that Dew and I will have, it's like they say oxen, you know, when you're yoke oxen together, their tails start to go at the same time. We can be thousands of miles apart and have virtually the exact same thoughts at the same time. And you know, that's a blessing. There's nothing at all negative about that. It's, believe me, we know a lot of classic rock bands that they don't even talk to each other.
Exactly.
So you know how fortunate we are.
Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead, Dewey.
I was going to say, although we only talk on Zoom, we couldn't get too close. No, we do. We spend as much time as we can together when we can.
No. Thank you so much for taking the time
guys.
tonight. So appreciate it. Thank you very much. See
Thank
you
all for coming.
Send my regards to Marin County, everybody out there.
Thank you very much.
Now they can see me. I was waving
There you
back.
go. Hey, Jack. All right.
See you guys
All right,
soon.
you guys. Thank you all. Talk to you soon, okay? Talk to you later, probably.
Well,
Yeah.
zoom out.